Hey y'all, happy Tuesday. Hopefully everyone is doing well. Gonna give everyone just a few minutes to come into the room and allow the notifications to go ahead and go out. Hey Sade, hey King BJ, hey y'all. So, while people are coming into the room, let me go ahead and thank my patrons. A special thank you to my VIP patrons, Daniel and Ray Ray. Thank y'all so much for supporting my content. If you are not following me on Instagram, make sure you go ahead and check out my Instagram, Rhonda_Mary. And I'm also on Twitter. I am RhondaMary. So, hey, the EDC guy. Hey, Black Introvert. So, hopefully, everyone is doing well. As you can see here, I also have my anti status tea on. Those are available in the link in the description box below. All right, y'all. So, let's go ahead and jump right into tonight. I don't know if y'all can hear something clicking, but I'm hearing something clicking. I don't know if it's my lights or what. Gonna figure out in a second because it's currently like bugging me a little bit, but I don't know. Y'all let me know if y'all can hear it as well. Um, anyway, it's like it stopped when I started talking. I don't know. There's something going on. Okay. Um, no, I'm healthy, Black introvert, maybe just a little sleepy, but you know, perfectly healthy. It's been some weather changes and stuff going on, but other than that, I'm well. Um, but all right, y'all. So let's go ahead and jump into a couple of things. One of the things that I just wanted to briefly mention is that I don't know if y'all heard about this. For some reason, I don't really think it's been a big story, but in particularly, I believe this is in Philadelphia. You had uh thousands of people's information being breached through the COVID contact tracing. While why I particularly thought this was interesting, y'all, this like kind of creeped me out. Some of y'all, depending on like what state or city you in, you might be like, "That's no big deal. That's been happening here for the longest." But as I was traveling out of DC, right, like a couple weeks ago, I got a message to my phone saying that you may be in the area of or somebody dealing with COVID or something like that. And to get updates or to be safe, click here. This alert came to my phone and I'm like, are we living in a freaking twilight zone here? Just, like, I don't know. And then so the week after that, I end up hearing about this breach that's going on. Contact tracing breach impacts private info of 72,000 people. Let me show y'all this. This is according to Philadelphia CBS Local.com. 72,000 people were mishandled by a third party vendor. The Pennsylvania Department of Health outsourced its contact tracing to a company called Insight Global. Tonight, that company is expressing regret. In doing so, they may have compromised the private information of at least 72,000 individuals. A statement from the department reads, in part, we are extremely dismayed that employees from Insight Global acted in a way that may have compromised this type of information and sincerely apologize to all impacted individuals. The department adds that compromised data did not contain any financial account information or social security numbers. Ooh, thank God. but may have contained names with phone numbers, email addresses, one's gender or age, sexual orientation, and COVID diagnosis or exposure status. Now, what exactly sexual orientation has to do with COVID? I just don't know. I haven't heard, I haven't seen that level of research, so I don't even know what's going on there. The more information you have about a person, for example, the more you can use it to get their identity, or in some cases, blackmail them or use that to your advantage to turn that into money. So, I mean, this is basically like a cybersecurity issue at this point. Um, and I just find it super interesting that right after I had that experience of getting this random message to my phone, like, hey, I want to see if I can find exactly what it said in my phone because I screenshotted it. I screenshot it. I think I said it. Um, but I was like, wow, this is like super odd. And I was so caught off guard. And it's like, okay, if you get that message and you're somewhere, like, are you leaving? Has the COVID not quite like hit you yet? Like, am I signing up for notifications for every single time I'm around somebody that may have been suspected of COVID? You know, and like, who's entering their information into this database? Who says, okay, I have COVID? Most people are going to be in the house for a few days, especially people with symptoms, all right? Because usually when you're sick, you have symptoms. And says, okay, let me just log this information into the COVID tracker app and let them know that I have COVID so I can help them keep up with people better. Like, I don't know. I don't even know how that conversation goes in people's head. I was trying to see if I can find exactly the wording for it. I don't want to go off on a tangent here. But it was like, oh, here it is, here it is, here it is. I found it. COVID-19 exposure notifications are available. Your iPhone can tell you if you may have been exposed to COVID-19. Your public health authorities' guidelines determine if an exposure is significant enough to notify you and provide next steps. Continue. Da 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 da. I don't know if y'all can. I don't know if y'all can see that, but um, I don't know how they be doing it. But y'all can kind of see that. And I didn't hit continue because I'm like, I don't even know what this means or what you're trying to sign me up for. And at the moment, I was already busy and moving. And I'm like, I don't have the time to really investigate what this means, what this entails, what you're trying to get from me, and all that kind of stuff. So I'm like, that's interesting. Thank you, Kenny. Kenny said, hey, RhondaMary, it's been a minute. I know you and I are both busy on the grind, just stopping through to show support. Blessings to you in the chat. Thank you so much, Kenny. Hey to everybody coming in the room. Hey, Darren. Hey, Edward. Hey, Deborah. Hey, Kendra. But yeah, y'all just be aware of that. I heard somebody today talking about concerts that are going to be coming up in the fall and stuff like that, and all of these activities. You know, some people trying to get back to normal, as you know. I mean, hey, life is to be lived. I don't see anything wrong with that, but I'm just very curious to see how a lot of these COVID restrictions and all this, and you know what the ins and outs of what's going to be going on, the information that'll be required to participate in public life. I'm not really, I'm not really a like, I'm kind of chill. I'm just kind of, I may go, I like to go have a nice dinner every now and again, but as far as like going to a concert or a sporting event, it's just not something that I care about. It's just not a big deal. It's just I just don't care. So but they are already hyping some people up to believe that to participate in society, you will have to take this thing, right? Even thinking about all of the things that have been uh that have been people have been used to proposition people into taking a vaccination, donuts and free Uber rides and discounts on meals and all these other things. And it's like, yeah, what's really going on here? Southeast Dusty said, looks like I'm retiring from the club life. Hey, Randy. So the crazy part about it is, depending on like what state you're in, it just like, it's no big deal. Florida, Texas, Mississippi, get it popping. But if you in New York, California, places like that, that may totally be a different thing. And something I really, really noticed, and I don't know if I mentioned this in a previous live, but are y'all starting to notice a lot of states kind of doing very standout takes as far as states' rights, whether we're talking about gun rights, right? You have a Joe Biden administration that says, yes, we want to regulate, or we want to put more restrictions on firearms. We are totally on board for that, right? And then you have a lot of these states coming out now, turning into constitutional carry states, turning into sanctuary states, right? For gun owners and things like this, things being talked about, pulling back on some of those regulations. Even if we look at things that's been going on with COVID, and recently you have Ron DeSantis signing some of these legislative, you know, um, legislative things that go basically against what we've seen some ways in the federal landscape, or what we've seen other states doing as it relates to regulations with COVID. And so I think this is very interesting. I think it's something to note. I did say that I think that I thought going forward, particularly after the Trump era, going into the Joe Biden era, I predicted that you're going to see a more polarizing time, as if, like, I don't know if the media is going to present it as polarizing as they did necessarily during the Trump era, but I think COVID opened up a lot of people's eyes into the people that want more regulations, want more restrictions, ultimately want more government, and people that don't want more regulations, don't necessarily in some regards. And that gets a little tricky too, because some people be faking the funk. Okay, they're totally okay with big government as long as it's their guy running it, but we'll save that for another day because I don't want to go too deep into that. But you have some people that are kind of pulling away and pushing back. And so I think it's going to be super duper interesting to see what happens with that going forward. Bruce said, Cuomo of all people says we're killing grandmas. I mean, hey, I don't think Cuomo's one to talk. The verdict came in on him as far as what was really happening, behind the scenes. People were, it's just so crazy, the 180 to watch people going on TV. And I talked about this, I think this was last week on my Instagram, right? Even the ventilators, there was this news segment that came out about ventilators that were being trashed and dumped in landfills because there were too many ventilators. This story was barely covered. Nobody really talked about it heavily as I would think it should be talked about. But if you were to play that clip, besides the people this time last year that were going on the TV constantly begging for ventilators, right? begging for ventilators, making ventilators, which was supposed to be a health issue, making it a political issue, making it a polarizing issue, just to turn around and find out that the ventilators were in fact killing people's grandmothers. And then they tried to sweep it under the rug and just quietly, right? Sneak away from using the ventilators. Who's gonna apologize for that? And just imagine all the people around the time, follow the science, right? And some of the reports and stuff I was reading at that time about hydroxychloroquine, about ventilators and all that other stuff was coming from other sources outside of the American mainstream media. Because I'm like, I can tell right now how this is going, what they're trying to do. And some of that truth was already coming out. And even at the time, you already had some people in America and some doctors already talking about how the ventilators were in fact iffy, potentially killing people. And yet you had these people getting on TV every day. It's like, the fact that nobody has to account for that, the fact that nobody has gotten on TV to apologize for that, the fact that nobody has done a vigil at the Capitol or done any type of display or symbolism, it's like, I don't know, man. Once you see it, it's like, is this really about safety, or is it just about whatever agenda they're trying to fulfill at the time? You know. So, um, just some things to keep an eye on. But all right, y'all. So let's talk about the CIA, right? Central Intelligence Agency, going so woke all of a sudden. And just to be perfectly honest, I didn't even know that the CIA does recruiting commercials. I'm like, okay, I learned something new today. But anyway, let's look at this. Let's take a look. And I'm also not sure why this is recently gone viral. It looks as if, and I'm gonna give y'all the actual date. It looks as if this came out in um March 25th. But let's take a look.
When I was 17, I quoted Zora Neale Hurston's How It Feels to Be Colored Me in my college application essay. The line that spoke to me stated simply, I am not tragically colored. There is no sorrow dammed up in my soul nor lurking behind my eyes. I do not mind at all. At 17, I had no idea what life would bring, but Zora's sentiment articulated so beautifully how I felt as a daughter of immigrants then and now. Nothing about me was or is tragic. I am perfectly made. I can wax eloquent on complex legal issues in English while also belting Guayaquil de mis amores in Spanish. I can change a diaper with one hand and console a crying toddler with the other. I am a woman of color. I am a mom. I am a cisgender millennial who's been diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder. I am intersectional, but my existence is not a box-checking exercise. I am a walking declaration, a woman whose inflection does not rise at the end of her sentences, suggesting that a question has been asked. I did not sneak into CIA. My employment was not and is not the result of a fluke or slip through the cracks. I earned my way in, and I earned my way up the ranks of this organization. I am educated, qualified, and competent, and sometimes I struggle. I struggle feeling like I could do more, be more to my two sons, and I struggle leaving the office when I feel there's so much more to do. I used to struggle with imposter syndrome, but at 36, I refuse to internalize misguided patriarchal ideas of what a woman can or should be. I am tired of feeling like I'm supposed to apologize for the space I occupy rather than intoxicate people with my effort, my brilliance. I am proud of me, full stop. My parents left everything they knew and loved to expose me to opportunities they never had. Because of them, I stand here today a proud first-generation Latina and officer at CIA. I am unapologetically me. I want you to be unapologetically you, whoever you are. Know your worth, command your space. Mija, you're worth it.
Um, okay. So we have this young lady here, and ironically enough, in this speech, this diatribe, she goes on to say, I'm not just a person ticking boxes. Lady, you literally ticked every box. Every box. I don't think you missed a box. Immigrant, cisgender, millennial, Latina, intersectional, strong, proud woman, struggling with two sons. Okay then. She brown. She a colored person of color. So this is the CIA. As y'all can see, this recently went viral. Like, she's had imposter syndrome. She's had, what was this other thing she had? Some type of something. Imposter syndrome. What was the other thing she said? Anxiety, I think it was. Y'all let me know in the chat. I was trying to write them down. Right? The funniest, the why I find this super interesting is that this is why I always talk about the whole F the representation thing. And I don't think people get it. We are at the point where you are literally going to have mistreatment, abuse, authoritarianism, tyranny. All of these things are going to be wrapped behind representation, these beautiful words, feminism, the LGBT flag, your mental health issues, and everything else. It's gotten to the point where people don't even care about the values or principles of anything anymore. It's all about the representation of it, right? And and let's just keep it real. I talked about this previously. I talked about this months ago. The ability for Kamala Harris to shift the energy, right, behind her career, behind her record, for a uh, a prosecutor, a previous person that worked in criminal law, and the author of the crime bill to be propped up as heroes in the lesser of two evils, in the height, in the height, in the possibly biggest social justice protest, the height of social justice that we've ever seen, well, particularly in my lifetime, is almost like mind boggling to me. Like, even to this day, I'm just like, wow. People are so wrapped up at this point in identity that it doesn't matter what you're masking behind that. It's finding the importance in the identity. And don't even get me started on this. Why are we throwing mental health things in now to like define us as people? I'm starting to think something with that is deeper at play here that hasn't been fully revealed yet. I'm starting to think that this is even a bigger push for big pharma, to normalize mental health issues and and continue to push gun control under the guise of trying to protect people. Y'all remember that one of the legislations that was introduced, I believe this was a particular legislation by Sheila Lee Jackson. It's like, okay, for you to be approved to have this firearm, you have to go do this mental health exam, right? First of all, who's going to be doing these mental health exams? What are their idea of mental health? And not only that, we have to remember that we are looking at the biggest population of people on psychotropic drugs than ever previously in history. So does that automatically discount you? I think it's a lot of things at play here that we're not thinking about long term. And in some ways, people have made it where it's almost a banner. It's some type of banner to wear your mental health issues proudly, right? And that's not to say, it's not like hide from who you are. I'm not saying that. I want to be clear. And it's not saying that you can't be human and express the things that you've been through, but to wear or clothe yourself in your sexual identity, even in your gender, in your mental health issues is odd. Is anybody going to call this stuff out? Especially the things we can literally, like, I can look at you and tell you're a woman, you're a Latino woman, right? I really wasn't, you're talking to me about your occupation. I'm not sure why I would need to know how you identify sexually. It's just very odd. I don't go into my job, I don't go into a work environment and discuss my sexuality. I just don't. And so we're talking about the same CIA that spies on citizens. We're talking about the same CIA that meddles in domestic and foreign affairs. We're talking about the CIA that was dropping drugs in the hood. We're talking about the same CIA that has, done very, when we talk about the CIA, you have to talk about things like the Patriot Act and things like this, right? And this long history of very nefarious and questionable and possibly un-American things that have happened behind the CIA or under the on the watch of the CIA. But hey, just slap a feminist or an LGBT or a I am an immigrant flag, and I guess it's all good. Do we honestly believe, and this is another part of it, I think this is the bigger part of it for me, do people really think I don't give a crap if we're talking about Nike, Walmart, Amazon, a politician, the CIA? Do y'all really think when any of these entities do a commercial, infomercial, advertisement, anything to get a message to the general public, and they mention, and that messaging mentions identity, I'm a strong woman, I'm a feminist, I'm a this, I'm a that, I have my fists in the air. Do people truly, actually, honestly looking inward, believe that these agencies, these same agencies that typically, particularly the people that would talk like this, right? Like the lady in the commercial. I would probably say that's more akin to somebody that's very more like progressive leaning, very left or liberal leaning, right? And the whole identity thing. Do people genuinely believe, oh, the CIA is validating me? They see me. They care about me. They think my life matters. Like, at this point, the so a lot of people, when we had these conversations, right, about like systemic racism, we have conversations about ways that the government is failing, right, and things like that. We talk about how some of these corporations may be presenting loopholes or how they're working hand in hand with politicians to get, favors and, back and forth and things like that. And sometimes I question, do people really think that these things are no longer happening, or does the general public notice that a lot of these things have evolved? So let me explain that in a better way, right? So, for example, let's use feminism. This is probably a good example because there are even rumors about the CIA and other federal agencies working to help move along the feminist movement. Okay, so let's take feminism. So let's talk about feminism as it relates particularly to the Black family. So back in I think this was like the 80s, if I'm not mistaken, right? Where, you really had this like explosion of welfare and things like that. And it was like, all right, if you can't have a man in your home if you're going to have if you're going to use this welfare, if you're going to need this welfare. And so that's one avenue, that's just one of the way the government played in a role in dismantling these families. Do we really think that that's still not happening today to some extent, and these practices have not evolved over time? So now you have this evolving into a lot of the messaging that we're receiving. You have a lot of educational programs that are in some ways really leaving young boys behind. I think this is something that we do not talk about enough. You have a lot of young boys failing and being left behind in the educational system. You have music, media, and entertainment that promotes and upholds uh, ideology that is very it's like a separation. We don't need you, we can do this alone. Pushing women apart from their men, when we know it is on record, we have data, we have statistic that shows, it has been proven over time, that when you have a nuclear family compared to a single parent household, that nuclear family, the child coming out of that nuclear family is more likely to have a productive life. So that is whether we're talking about education level, income level, moving up forward to have their own family, right? Being able to detour things like drugs and alcohol and the criminal system. Okay. Not only do we have years and years of data, we also have eyes where we can see. Now, you obviously have exceptions to the rule. Okay. We're not going to be naive. We're not going to play dumb. Yes, you do have people that are, raised in one single parent households that go on to be very successful, be great people, things like that. My father being one of them. I've talked about this before, right? But by seeing the situation, kind of seeing the things his mother had to go through and things like that, he was determined. He did not want to take that route. And he wanted to make sure, he had this nuclear family and things like that. Um, so that is an example. That's just one example of over time, some of these same themes or some of these agendas still being there, but evolving into different ways that still have the underlying, it's still the same underlying thing, right? Destroy, dismantle the nuclear family and things like that. Racer X, nah. Racer X said, at this point, the New World Order is just clowning us, trying to push every button we have all the time. Remember, according to them, they can make us believe 2 plus 2 equals 5. Thank you, Racer X. Something I've also noticed is how, like, words and how we're getting away from the definition of actual words. And so this is the first thing that's coming to my mind because this is something I was just recently thinking about the other day. There was this news that came out saying that I think this was Arizona was a latest state that was going to allow people to, or the parents to pick the gender on the birth certificate or something like that, or maybe not identify the gender and stuff like that. And I was thinking about, it's so crazy to me how in previous years transgender used to mean to actually transition to something, right? Like that's what it used to actually be. Like in previous years, to be considered transgender, you had to be transitioning. Like that's where part of that word came from. But now it's evolved to just whatever you feel in your head, like whatever you feel in your head, whatever you wake up and feel today, whoever you want to be, that's just what you are. And I'm like, words have meaning, or they used to. And it's just one example that came to my head because I had posted it the other day and I just kept thinking about that. And you'll have these people that think they're so progressive, but you're literally denying the thing that people are trying to transition to. You're denying that whole concept. So therefore, like a lot of this stuff we're looking at, when you really just start to break it down and think about it, it's just very contradictory. But even beyond that, even looking at just a lot of the wording that we've dealt with, like with the COVID lockdowns, right? Like social distancing, new normal. It's like it's a lot of things that's at play here that is trying to create these contradictions in our mind and remove us from identifying words with actual meaning. And I'm just not sure if people care anymore. And so you have agencies like the CIA that are now, you know, it's a hot button. It's a hot button. Say these buzzwords, you'll get these type of people's attention, or they'll think that you're on their side, you're on that team. And I want people to not like fall victim to that. If the principle or the value doesn't align with you, then the representation that they're trying to push is not beneficial to you. That just does not make sense. I don't care that you are showing me a representation of a Black woman prostitute. I'm not a prostitute. So why would I care that she physically looks like me, right? Or I don't care about your representation of a drug dealer Black woman. I'm not a drug dealer. So why would representation in that aspect, matter to me? I think, this whole representation thing is going to be a big heal for some people. It's going to be a big hill for some people to die on, because it is that whole representation thing is going to be the exact thing used as the vehicle to push so much garbage and harmful things. Representation and identity is going to be used as the exact vehicle to push so many harmful things. It's very interesting that now you have some people waking up and kind of calling out Lori Lightfoot, right? Like you have the Chicago mayor who for a long time people didn't really, you didn't see a lot of negative things said about her. People were particularly happy when she got into office and things like this. But over time, I've noticed, I don't know if y'all have seen this, but I've seen a ramp up on Twitter of people like calling her out on things that she's done, things she supported, areas where she's failed in. And it's like, if you are failing at your job, how does your identity serve me? How does it serve you? How does it serve this person's constituents? So people better wake up to the con game. And I peeped this. I peeped this several years ago. Because especially in politics, it'll get to the point where people be like, oh, we gave you a Black guy. Wasn't that good enough? It's almost like that type of energy. They look like you. She's queer. You love it, right? Like, it's like, so it is being used. The labels, the identity is getting to a point where a lot of these things are being used as distractions. They're being used as diversions. Okay, diversion tactics. They're being used as manipulation tools. And that's why you have some of these people that are able to get away with stuff for so long. And I think it's more interesting that now when that's tapping into agencies like the CIA, That's just taking it to a whole different level. So don't be bamboozled. Don't be bamboozled. It's definitely propaganda. And just imagine that, right? Like, just imagine somebody behind the scenes of a corporation, of a federal agency, or any type of organization saying, this my message, and I know they not gonna feel it coming from me. Let me go find somebody that fits the bill, that fits this character, that fits this stereotype, and I'll have them say the message. I'll have them do my dirty work. And we're obviously all they give us is symbolism. But you gotta ask yourself. You gotta ask yourself. If somebody keep taking what you giving, why you gonna stop giving? If they taking, if we have shown time and time again that that's all we need, look at how many people you still got crying about Oscars. Who gives a crap? Who cares? Why do you need to be validated by the Oscars? It's particularly if you feel validated in your work, know you gave it the best, and know you represent for your people and they love it, your fans love it. It's like, I mean, I just don't get I just don't get the obsession. I don't get the constant obsession with symbolism, with representation. Why do you want to be represented by people that don't value you? People that you don't believe value you, people that you don't believe like you, people that you don't believe care about you, people that you don't believe think your life matters. Why? That's just odd to me. Like, that's so odd. Like, I'm gonna pressure you into seeing me. You better put me on your stage. Oh, okay. Give her this award so we can keep them watching. Keep them, keep these commercial spots. Keep generating this revenue. Throw them a little bone. Get a queer black woman up there or something. Okay then. All right. I guess. But yeah, y'all, just going forward, if somebody may be watching that's never heard, you know, this or never thought about it in that way, but every single time somebody comes on their TV and they're trying to sell you their identity before their values, their principles, what they're standing for, or their product. It could be their product, right? Just kind of, give it a little side eye, just see a little bit more what's going on with it, where they're trying to take you with it. Because sometimes, like I said, they'll use that whole identity thing to mask a BS product, a nefarious agenda, something that you may not even be down with or cool with, but they're trying to just sell you on that. So I said, look at the CIA out here getting it popping, trying to recruit all the diversity, or at least, hey, pretending to. But all right, y'all. So, hey to everybody just coming in the room. Make sure y'all are giving a thumbs up and make sure you're subscribed if you're not subscribed. So let's talk about this menthol ban, y'all. Cause gotta talk about this. Um Cause I'm like, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. All right, so we're gonna read a little bit of this article, as y'all have probably already, seen this mentioned like on social media and stuff like that. People have been making memes about it. Oddly enough, there was this picture floating around, like I don't know how long ago, of like Joe Biden, and he's like, at the like corner store, whatever, and he has braids, and he's in like one of those menthol track suits, and you know, and now this comes out, and people had to pull out the meme again. But this is according to Yahoo News. Despite Biden's ban on menthol cigarettes, getting blacks to quit smoking remains a challenge. So this is the what we just talked about is going to basically be like a perfect segue into this story, because I'm telling y'all, to do anything. They love what black people got to do with this, but we're gonna keep talking about it. Let's go. Exclusive. Health and Human Services Secretary Xavier Becerra, I guess is how you say it, says the Biden administration wants to save lives in the black community. President Joe Biden is taking aim at the tobacco industry with another racial equity move to ban menthol cigarettes. Black people, I need you to see, the only time these people talk about racial equity is one, symbolism. Two, when you about to do something that's actually authoritative, that's actually tyranny. And we're gonna, because if you haven't made the connection of how yet, I'm gonna break it down. I'm gonna explain it right to you. This is the prime example of them masking this BS behind identity. Oh, we're just trying to protect black people, because it's all about equity. The administration's decision stands to be a life-changing proposition, especially in the black community, which is harder hit with nicotine addiction than other groups. In 2009, the Family Smoking Prevention and Tobacco Control Act was signed into law. It gives the FDA authority to regulate the manufacture, distribution, and marketing of tobacco products. The FDA, which is now under the purview of the Department of Health and Human Services, says ban on menthol aims to remove the substance from tobacco cigarettes, as the science suggests it contributes to addiction by hiding the impacts of smoking on the body. Blah blah blah. The CDC found tobacco use is a major contributor to the three leading causes of death among African Americans: heart disease, cancer, and stroke. Additionally, tobacco increases the risk of developing diabetes by 30% and 40% in cigarette smokers. Figures worsen when you add in the menthol component of tobacco cigarettes to the concept of addiction in the black community. CDC, the marketing and promotion of menthol cigarettes have been targeted heavily toward African Americans through culturally tailored advertising images and messages. So you want to talk about that? I'm finna tell y'all. I'm finna tell y'all how fake this is. The same way media, advertising, images, and messages has been used to promote promiscuity, to promote obesity, to promote the destruction of the nuclear family. Skip over all that. We don't care that the media constantly promotes you as thugs and prostitutes and drug dealers. Skip over all of that and jump to menthol cigarettes. Now, when I was in school, in grade school, it was a big error. I don't know if they still do this, but it was a big error for say no to drugs, right? It was very known and understood and drilled into our heads how harmful tobacco was. I don't think it's one sane person in their right mind that thinks that smoking tobacco comes with no negative conditions. I do not think it's a person that has any level of second, third grade, even education, that has any good common sense that actually believes that. Even this constant babying and uh, uh, degrading of black people as if we don't have a brain between our ears, as if we cannot make decisions for ourselves, as if people do not know. People know smoking a cigarette is a vice. Smoking is something that people know. Smoking is not freaking going to the gym. They know it's not eating fruit. People that are smoking know this. These are grown adults that have the decision to do so. I am not promoting people smoking. I've talked about this even as it relates to marijuana, cannabis, whatever. I am not promoting people doing drugs, smoking tobacco. I am, however, saying that grown people decide deserve the ability and the freedom to make their own choices. I don't know what is so wild or shocking about saying that. And in some ways, I'm starting to wonder, is this the new crack versus crack cocaine? Because if the numbers tell you that African Americans, as is stated in this article, statistically are smoking menthol cigarettes with menthol compared to other demographics, and then you turn around and say, "Oh, okay, well, those ones we're gonna ban." I don't think, and I'm not trying to be rude in saying this, I am trying to be honest and genuine with y'all as possible. I seriously don't believe that some people are making the connection with law and application of law. With law in the criminal system, you cannot ask for, beg for, plead for, nor even casually accept new laws without thinking about how those laws will be applied. I talk about this all the time. You, in good faith and good common sense, cannot sit there and say that there is systemic racism in the judicial system. You cannot sit there and say police and judges do not equally apply the judicial system, and then turn around and support something that sways against black people. That is the most contradictory, non making sense thing I've ever heard in my life. And you actually got people saying, "Oh, well, this is just against the manufacturers. They're not going to come for average people." Do you think, if you think a cop And I'm talking to the person, whoever you may be. If you think a cop has a vendetta against you, cops are doing stuff they shouldn't be doing, cops are chasing crimes they shouldn't be chasing, you literally think ban means to ban. That's what's going to happen. The law is not going to say, oh, well, ban this, but only for manufacturers. No. The politician may say that. The news article may say that. They may say, hey, we're doing this to discourage, or we want manufacturers to stop manufacturing this. But when has the stopping of federally allowing something to be manufactured, when has that stopped it? I know people right now making and selling moonshine. I know people right now who are not, well, I don't know people personally, but we know it's a thing for people that are not supposed to be firearms owners, knowing that they are not in the group of people that can carry legally, will still go behind the scenes and do it. Drugs, marijuana is still federally illegal, and you know how many people I know, teachers, doctors, nurses, all kind of people. So prohibiting something doesn't mean it's going to stop people from doing it. And so now you have a cop that's going to be on the street, and a cop sees you with whatever, right? They're not gonna go, well, hey, I'm gonna let you go because that was just for the manufacturers, you know. Have a good day. Just one little hair keeps sticking up back here. Like, come on. People have to think beyond what these people will, if some of y'all will let them sell you slavery if they wrapped it up in enough of your representation. It's not a good direction to go. And even some people that may think, oh, well, this is not that big of a deal, it is a big deal because it's never ending. It's never ending. And every single time you support something like this, you are supporting and validating more unnecessary interactions between law enforcers. According to the Supreme Court, I am not just making this up. Please do your research. I've shown this tons of times on this channel. According to the Supreme Court, they do not have to protect you. Serve and protect is just as much of a flimsy hashtag as y'all use on social media to virtue signal. Now, are there occasions where they serve, where they protect? Sure. But are they obligated to do that according to what's on paper? So we're not talking about how you feel all bubbly inside, your attachment to police officers and what you feel they should be doing. This is why I stress what's on paper. My people perish for a lack of knowledge, knowing. You perish for a lack of knowing. It didn't say you perish for a lack of feeling. And to think there are some people that are actually saying, oh, this is good. This is a great thing. Oh, because my such and such, my ex brother-in-law, daddy, uncle, stepdaddy died because of cancer. So this is a great thing. So instead of think about the psychology there, because it's something deeper going on. Like, let's just be real. Think about the psychology of that. The same people that will get mad because an officer that was called shows up to a Micaiah Bryant's resident, and unfortunately, that situation ends in the tragic death of a young woman. However, on the other side of that, you literally have people saying, we don't want agency or autonomy in our lives over this way, in this way. We don't believe that the men in our community, or women, or older generation, or black people, or cigarette smokers, or whatever, we do not believe that they have enough brain power, self control, wherewithal, or just knowing of themselves to know what they want to do with their own lives and their own bodies. So we must police them on a federal level. Think about the psychology of that. What is the psychology behind that? To believe that some moral authority figure, almost parental in nature, should get to decide how you spend your life, and it shouldn't be on your own terms. Some of y'all's desire to constantly be ruled, be overseen, be controlled, while pretending pretending to be anti-establishment, pretending to be the resistance, pretending to be F the government. Those things don't go together. Why are people not making the connections? Law, application of law. I have to know, if I support this, I have to think, how is it going to be applied? And it goes not just applications on the streets, we're even talking about judges as well. And you have to ask yourself, do I believe, is this issue so serious to me that I think that it should have the possibility of being escalated to a law enforcer with a gun showing up? Am I that convicted about this issue? For me, I would say no. I would say no. It's not that important to me that I believe that a grown freaking person, I want to snatch a cigarette out of their mouth so badly, so intently, that I'm going to send a person with a gun. That's what law enforcers do. And that brings me to another point, because I had somebody bring up, oh, are you for abolishing the police? Abolishing the police, this and the other. You just need to abolish the police. Without law enforcers, we wouldn't need people to write laws. And what I mean by that is, think about some of the laws that y'all already don't follow, right? Think about some of the laws that you probably already break, right? So let's just say marijuana being a common one. Now think about if you didn't have law enforcers. Who gives a crap? Who cares what Joe Biden's talking about? Who cares what Kamala Harris is talking about? Who gives a crap what Lori Lightfoot is talking about? Who cares what Ron DeSantis is talking about, or Andrew Cuomo, or the other guy that's about to get kicked out of California? Law enforcers uphold and enforce the law. So therefore, you cannot vote. There's no politician. I don't care how down they try to act like they are, how cool, how anti-establishment. They're so progressive. There's no politician that is ever going to abolish the police. That's not how that works. They go hand in hand. They go together. As much as, and this is where the trick comes in, because some people still haven't made the connection. As much as your favorite politician tries to act like they're so down for the people, they're so cool, they're against the police is the one enforcing their agenda. And don't even get me started on the tax racket. A lot of times, not even knowing where our money goes. Particularly in inner cities, you have where education is failing, you have failing infrastructure, you have water and air that is failing, you have streets with potholes, you have all of these issues that need to be addressed. Think about the amount of people that'll be like, nah, screw that. I'm not paying into this system if you didn't have anybody to law enforce. And now you got your politicians that can't eat. They can't advance how you going to advance your political career without your muscle, without the person enforcing it? So I find that even when people try to talk about abolishing the police, it's in a very, very superficial, uh, almost elementary way of talking about it. It's not in a holistic way that actually looks at why a big reason of why we have law enforcement. Even for you, like super blue thin liners, super support the police people. Most of what police do, and y'all know this because sometimes when you'll have these police brutality interactions come up, well, what about the millions of interactions that police officers have, and it doesn't turn out like that? So what what let's talk about these millions of interactions, and what exactly these cops doing, what are they chasing? So, you know, those are things to think about. Anybody that's talking about abolish the police in a way of you're just looking at the law enforcement system, you're just looking at the police agency without seeing how that's directly tied into, and they're the actual muscle for the politicians, their actual representation of the politicians. And I feel like this is something that oftentimes, like, I feel like people don't really want to address it for what it really is. The police officers are a representation of the politicians and the policies and the laws that they are sent to enforce. Give them more laws, more interactions, more law enforcement. You cannot talk about abolishing the police without having a conversation about politicians and the role they play and how the law enforcers, and it's a reason I keep saying this because that's what they are. They're law enforcers. Who writes the law? Who writes the laws? And so, if your politician, whether we're looking at your city, whether we're looking at your state, even now, if we're even looking federally, if your politician is pushing for more laws, particularly pushing to put in place laws and to make people criminals that are non-violent people. Maybe your freaking grandpa just want to sit on his front porch and spend his last few years. He's accepted. I enjoy this. I'm not messing with nobody. I'm not bothering anybody. I'm not hurting anybody. I'm not messing with anybody's stuff. This is the decision I made. This is something I want to do. And we're now going to turn this victimless act into a criminal one and shuffle more people into our prison system. Is that what we're saying? Even if we're talking about the people that want to manufacture it. Like, so what? They're selling a product that people are wanting to buy. A product that you know there are ramifications for, right? Just like alcohol, just like fast food. We know there are physical ramifications for these things. And as consumers, I decide, hey, I wanted a freaking burger, McDonald's burger with extra cheese on it today. I made that decision as a consumer. I don't need a politician to come slap it out of my hand. I don't need a politician that's telling me, "Oh, you're being singled out cuz you're black." Now let me be very clear cuz I want to make the distinction here as somebody that promotes and talks about healthy eating, healthy lifestyles. I do 100% absolutely believe these are communal, localized discussions that we should be having. But don't criminalize me for that. That's the difference. It's the forced criminalization. It's the parental and the authoritative nature. And even the psychology, right? We have to look at the psychology that it's creating to even this idea that politicians are supposed to come in and swoop you up and save you from every little thing. That is not what politicians are supposed to do. That is not even that is not originally what politicians were supposed to do. It's not. Politicians were supposed to protect your human civil rights and the Constitution, not constantly come up with things and make new ways to criminalize you, to berate you, to act like your parent, to create more laws to control you. And it's almost like, it gets to a point where it's almost like this pathetic level of overreaching, and you slap black people on it as if you actually care. Show me, show me the time in history where people have went above and beyond for the health, and say this for politicians, for health as it relates to black people. Even they're trying to push COVID vaccines as equity, right? Trying to push abortions as equity. Trying to push these things as, oh, we care about your health care. There's a long history of politicians, in fact, exacerbating a lot of issues and making issues worse, not making them better. And so, this just seems really like odd. And I know it has to be more behind it. A lot of times we know that money behind the scenes is a very big motivating factor. So I don't know if, insurance companies, I don't know if maybe somebody with a competing product, I don't know who this is trying to push these things off the market, but something is happening. Nothing, especially when it comes to this, it's not random. It's not random. These are the same people. It's a mismessaging. These are the same people that will tell you the earth is overpopulated, right? We rather abort people than have them be born into such a horrible world, such a horrible situation. And then at the other side of your mouth, you telling me, "Oh, you care, and I need to ban this for your health." It's always a power grab. It's always a power grab. And it's a very, very, very slippery slope. And in some ways, you have to assume the worst with the legislation. You have to. And it's not even to like be negative or to be pessimistic, but it's like if you kind of just watch and pay attention, politicians go more and more and more with the power grab, and we do have to ask, where does this end before it gets too far? We also have to have these conversations holistically. We have to make the connections. We have to look at history, right? Like, even for the Biden administration to even come out so boldly and have the nerve to even try to tackle this during this administration, knowing how you were already labeled or handled, I'm sorry, previously for the crime bill, crack versus cocaine disparities and things like that. It just seems odd to even want to come out and say this, right? But the funny thing about it is, if you don't follow me on Instagram, you should. I posted this video today from the movie Bullworth with Halle Berry in it. And it's a white politician, and he comes into the church and he's talking to this black congregation, and the lady in the audience was like, "So you trying to tell us that the Democratic Party doesn't care about black people?" And he's like, "Yeah, like, you don't know that by now?" And he's like, "I mean, you acting like it's a big deal. It's not like y'all gonna vote any other way. So Like it doesn't even matter. Like, you know, and that type of thing is why. That's the why. I answer my own question. That's why. So when you have a Biden that comes out and say, "Yeah, we just gonna tell them this," it don't even matter. It's whatever. I mean, hey, who? I just imagine somebody from his administration saying that same thing. Like they're having whatever kind of board meeting or whatever, and somebody says, "How you gonna with your history and everything you've done, how are you gonna be the one to present this? Like what sense does that make?" And somebody else being like, "Man, please, it don't even matter. They know we prove to them time and time again, we don't care. It is what it is. They still gonna be here anyway. So what's up? Let's just do what we want and get it over with." All right, we'll make the press release. Press release comes out. Biden administration says they're gonna tackle menthols. Anyway, but yeah, y'all. So that's that. I just had to talk about that. I'm really getting tired of the way people are throwing identity on stuff. They'll throw black people, they'll throw us into some stuff when they want to push anything. I've said this, and it could be the worst thing. You know what I mean? It's not always good things. Um a lot of times it's things with agenda that's like you slap a black person's face on it, and it's like the approval for it. And what I implore people to do, I've talked about this, is that if we know that's the tactic, if we know that's the tactic that's being used, let's use that for beneficial things. This is why now I'm making an effort, and going forward, I'll try to do more, but talking about black gun ownership, nuclear families, healthy lifestyle and living, preppers and first responders and doulas and homeschoolers and midwives, and all of these avenues where they're trying to make it seem like we're not in, we don't care about, we don't do, and these things directly add and promote and benefit quality of life. It's not no, oh, they see me, I look so cute in this movie. It's no, we're getting money, we're staying safe, we're adding to our skills, we're adding to our resume, we're adding to our quality of life, we're adding to the way that we directly benefit our families and our communities. That's what matters. Not all this, oh, I got an Oscar. If you know you are going to be used and be the face of something and be the stamp of approval for some BS, be the stamp of approval for something good, something that can help somebody, something that can help, somebody make their life better, or help you make your life better. Not all this. But anyway, hey, Chad. Chad said, "What's up, my true telling sister? Keep it coming." Thank you for the super chat. Uh, But these are just things to think about, y'all. Just continue to be aware of that. Continue to be aware of the lot of stereotypes, the programming, the propaganda, the identities they'll try to throw on something uh, uh, to to um, either support an agenda or create a certain narrative or push something or push a product. You know, just be mindful. I think, especially when we see somebody like the CIA doing this, we're definitely going to see this ramping up more and more over time. And these are things to be conscious and very, very aware of. But all right, y'all. Thank y'all for rocking with me every Tuesday. I really thank y'all for y'all support. If you are new here, make sure you go ahead and give a thumbs up and make sure you are subscribed. Thank you to everyone that super chatted. Um, a special thank you to my patrons. Thank y'all so much for supporting my content, making these Hey Y'all Tuesdays possible. And my VIP patrons, Daniel and Ray Ray. Don't forget, you can get your anti-status teas that are available in my description link below. And we will be talking soon. Bye, y'all.